Good morning, guys. It is a cloudy Monday morning, but I don't mind. It's been a few hot days, so I think we need the rain. I was going through a couple of verses in Second Timothy, Paul's Second Timothy letter to Timothy, and he was saying, "I urge you to fan into flames the fire that is within you." And the gift that was deposited in you with the laying of hands. And then he goes on and he says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind or self discipline." And it just kind of reminded me of my last week. Last week was one of those weeks where you just seem to have way more than you should to do and to handle. And a lot of times I people preach about flair and the this and the miracles and the whatever, and we don't focus on one of the things that is critical, and that is knowing how to still go through in spite of, knowing how to keep pressing on, knowing that, hey, listen, I'm having a tough time, I have a lot of stuff to do, but I'm going to get it done. I'm going to trust God for the wisdom to get it done and to take care of it. I'm not going to give in to those feelings of being overwhelmed and so on, and then my daughters were not well as well, and I'm busy with so many other things, and just feeling like, there's a lot. But what kind of took me through the week is that God never gives you more than you can bear. And in knowing that, and that His love for me is sure. And so it is about remembering that however tough things may get, is to remember that God is still there. There's a scripture in James that has a progression of character building, when it talks about you add to your faith a little patience, and you keep adding all these things, perseverance and so on, until you get to that point of character being built. And sometimes we forget that these little tiny things are not there to hinder us, they're not there to give us a hard time, but they're there to help us to build on what we have, to add a little bit more to your patience, to add a little more to your perseverance, to build a little bit more resilience into your character. And so I just want to remind us that, as we go into this new week, God says, hey, listen, I'm never going to leave you. I'm never going to forsake you. And I'm not going to give you more than you can bear. And he says he's not giving us a spirit of fear. Don't become overwhelmed with, I'm not going to make it. Fear may sometimes want to crouch in, like, oh my gosh, this is tough. I can't handle this, and of power and of self-discipline. Just remember to discipline yourself into just keep going, just keep doing, just keep making it from one task. What I do when that happens is that I make a task list and follow it, every single day, and tick off a little bit, okay, I didn't get all 5 things done, but I got 3 out of them, so that's progress. I didn't get all the things that I was supposed to get in place at the right time. Some were late, some didn't get to fruition, but hey, maybe God knows there's something better that needs to happen instead, and yeah, just having that steady focus that in spite of it, God has promised to give us the strength. He has promised to be there with us. He has promised to take us through every little storm. There's always a calm before and after the storm. So whenever you're in the middle and it seems murky and it seems like a storm, remember that, hey, this doesn't last forever. That's what I think, I took away from last week. That was just a lot. That, hey, I made it to the end of the week. I got to Sunday morning in church and thinking like, hey, I have a testimony. I made it through last week. Last week was tough, but I made it. I had all these things, and I was able to just keep believing the word. Like, God, I'm gonna believe you for healing. God, I'm gonna believe you for strength to take care of all these things. I'm gonna believe you for the wisdom. And it was just amazing that just keeping that calm within my spirit, knowing that, hey, God has this. Me and God got this, and coming out at the end of every day, new challenges, continuation of challenges from the previous day, and knowing that, hey, I did, like I got to the end of the day and I was able to get some stuff done. And just knowing that God was just there in the midst and feeling his presence inside. Paul was writing a lot of these letters from in prison and he was in the middle of some tough times. But yet here he was taking the time to encourage other believers to write and say, hey, listen, it's okay. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. And he says, fan the flames. I like that because I've done outdoor stuff and finding the flame. I'm outdoors. I like to go outdoor, but learning how to make fire from scratch and stuff, not my thing. And I remember one time I was left in charge of cooking, and the others were out on the work site. We're on a youth challenge project, and it took like literally about half an hour to get the fire going, fanning it and so on. And so sometimes you fan and it doesn't really get started right away. You got to do it again, or it starts and then you didn't do it the right way. You didn't put the right things to ignite at the right time. So it's out, and you got to do it over. But by the end of it, there was just such a like, yes, I did it. And I think that's how I felt about last week. At the end of the week, like, yes, I made it through. And I didn't crumble. So just to remind you that God is there in the midst. In spite of, He will be there. He promised that He will be there, and He's a God that keeps His promises. So make sure that you just keep looking to Him. No matter how tough it seems, you can make it. Toughen up, make it. You can make it to the end of this week. You can make it to the end of this situation because, hey, nothing lasts forever. And God says He'll be there, and He will be because He loves you, and I do too. Be blessed, guys. Have an awesome day.